Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
An introduction. Longfellow was born in 1807 in Portland, Maine, then part of Massachusetts, into a privileged background. Studious, he worked hard and grew to love languages as well as poetry from an early age. He travelled extensively in Europe for 3 years, immersing himself in various languages, and became much influenced by its poets. From there he returned to the US, eventually to teach at Harvard. His first major publication of poetry was in 1839. Today he is rightly known as an icon of American poetry, with classics such as Paul Revere's Ride and the Song of Hiawatha. In this collection we bring you further examples of his great talents that read undimmed to this very day. Our readers include John Michael MacDonald, Richard Mitchley and Ghizela Rowe.
The Phantom Ship. Birds of Passage, Flight the First. By Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. In Mother's Magnalia Christi of the old colonial time may be found in prose the legend that is here set down in rhyme. A ship sailed from New Haven, and the keen and frosty airs that filled her sails at parting were heavy with good men's prayers. O Lord, if it be thy pleasure, thus prayed the old divine, to bury our friends in the ocean, take them, for they are thine. But Master Lamberton muttered, and under his breath said he, This ship is so crank and walty, I fear our grave she will be. And the ships that came from England, when the winter months were gone, brought no tidings of this vessel, nor of Master Lamberton. This put the people to praying, that the Lord would let them hear what in his greater wisdom he had done with friends so dear. And at last their prayers were answered. It was in the month of June, an hour before the sunset of a windy afternoon, when steadily steering landward, a ship was seen below, and they knew it was Lamberton, master, who sailed so long ago. On she came with a cloud of canvas, right against the wind that blew, until the eye could distinguish the faces of the crew. Then fell her straining topmasts, hanging tangled in the shrouds, and her sails were loosened and lifted and blown away like clouds, and the masts with all their rigging fell slowly one by one, and the hulk dilated and vanished as a sea mist in the sun. And the people who saw this marvel, each said unto his friend that this was the mould of their vessel, and thus her tragic end. And the pastor of the village gave thanks to God in prayer, that to quiet their troubled spirits he had sent this ship of air.
My Books, by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Sadly, as some old medieval knight gazed at the arms he could no longer wield, the sword two-handed and the shining shield suspended in the hall and full in sight, while secret longings for the lost delight of tourney or adventure in the field came over him, and tears but half concealed trembled and fell upon his beard of white. So I behold these books upon their shelf, my ornaments and arms of other days, not wholly useless, though no longer used, for they remind me of my other self, younger and stronger, and the pleasant ways in which I walked, now clouded and confused. The Republic, by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Thou too sail on, O ship of state, sail on, O Union strong and great. Humanity with all its fears, with all the hopes of future years, is hanging breathless on the fate. We know what master laid the keel, what workman wrought thy ribs of steel, who made each mast, and sail, and rope, what anvils rang, what hammers beat, in what forge and what a heat were shaped the anchors of thy hope. Fear not each sudden sound and shock, 'tis of the wave and not the rock. 'Tis but the flapping of the sail, and not a rent made by the gale. In spite of rock and tempest's roar, in spite of false lights on the shore, sail on, nor fear to breast the sea. Our hearts, our hopes, are all with thee. Our hearts, our hopes, our prayers, our tears, our faith triumphant o'er our fears, are all with thee, are all with thee.